Good evening, this is your AI host, Jay. I'm here with the automatically generated Journato evening headlines on August 30, 2022. 2 Air France pilots suspended after fighting in cockpit during flight. The Independent. Air France pilots suspended for fighting in cockpit. The Times. 2 Air France pilots suspended after fighting in cockpit during flight. ITV News. ITV News. 2 Air France pilots suspended after fight in cockpit prompts cabin crew to intervene. The Guardian. 2 Air France pilots suspended after cockpit fight. What is COP15 and why does it matter for all life on Earth? French MP sparks national debate over claims barbecued red meat is macho. The Guardian. You don't have to barbecue to prove your virility, top French Green MP tells meat-eating men. Ukrainians flee town near to nuclear plant to escape very scary clashes. For the first time, I saw that men were afraid. Sky News. Ukraine family retreats to cellar during shelling. Reuters. Despite shelling, family life goes on in cellar in eastern Ukraine. Ghosts of Empire. What Kwasi Kwarteng's book tells us about him. Why are Shia groups fighting each other in Iraq? The Guardian. Why are militants and Shia groups fighting in Iraq? Ukraine grain deal. Where are the ships going? BBC. Around 1.5 MLN tons of food have left Ukraine under grain export deal. Reuters. Food aid vessel leaves Ukraine for Yemen, WFP says. Reuters. Exclusive. Ukraine's agriculture exports to double in next few months now ports open. Minister. Reuters. More grain must be shifted from Ukraine's silos, says UN official. Rain eases China's record heatwave but fresh energy crisis looms. Chris Dawson, subject of the Teacher's Pet Crime podcast, found guilty of murdering wife 40 years ago. Sky News. Husband in podcast famous case Chris Dawson guilty of wife's murder. BBC News. BBC News. Chris Dawson, killer husband guilty at last in Teacher's Pet podcast case. The Times. Teacher's pet murder. Chris Dawson guilty of killing wife to be with teen babysitter. China's big cities, from Dalian to Shenzhen, ramp up COVID curbs. Reuters. Millions in new COVID lockdown as China keeps strict policy. The Independent. China shuts world's largest electronics market as Shenzhen imposes more lockdowns. CNN. China imposes COVID-19 lockdowns for millions around Beijing. CNA. Populous Chinese cities including Shenzhen ramp up COVID curbs. All of southwest of England in drought, says Environment Agency. EU to tighten visa rules for Russians but split on travel ban. Reuters. EU routes to hit Russia dwindle as countries split on visa ban. Politico Europe. Ireland would need to speak to UK before any move to restrict Russian tourists. Belfast Telegraph. The Irish Times view on Russian tourist visas. Isolating Russians could help Putin. The Irish Times. The Irish Times. Russian tourist visas. France, Germany want EU to combat Putin propaganda. Iraqi cleric Muqtada al-Sadr calls on supporters to leave government quarter of Baghdad within 1 hour after protests. Sky News. Iraqi cleric tells loyalists to return to their homes after fighting in Baghdad. The Guardian. Muqtada al-Sadr. At least 15 dead amid fighting in Iraqi capital. BBC. At least 15 killed after supporters of Iraqi Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr storm government palace. Sky News. Iraqi cleric tells loyalists to leave streets after clashes. Ukraine war, live. Russia insists invasion will succeed as Kyiv captures villages near Kherson. The Independent. Ukraine claims new push in Russian-held region Kherson. BBC News. BBC News. Ukraine war. Ukraine breaks through Russian defenses in Kherson counterattack. The Telegraph. Zelensky says they will push Russian forces to the border. The Independent. Ukrainian advisor warns progress will be slow as southern counterattack begins. Pakistan faces monsoon on steroids as more flood warnings issued. The Guardian. 1/3 of Pakistan is under flood water, says Minister. BBC News. BBC News. Pakistan floods. Disaster to cost more than $10 billion, Minister says. BBC. The Guardian view on climate chaos in Pakistan. Adapt to survive. The Guardian. UN appeals for $160 million in emergency funding after Pakistani floods. This was all for the news. Thanks for listening. Please do not forget to like and subscribe.